Welcome to a Dead Squirrel in the Woods podcast. We are the spooky siblings, Nicholas and Callie.
Well, we're here again. What do you think you should talk about this time, Nick?
Well, we do have the Michigan Triangle series we're doing, but I think we should take a break from that.
I think that would be a good idea.
I need some more time to research anyways on that. There was a lot of information. So, well, I'm thinking let's go to the hometown of our mother.
All the way over there?
You know where that is, Callie?
Elmwood?
Yes. And by chance, do you know, what Elmwood is known for?
I thought it was just kind of this boring old town.
Well, in a way, yeah. When me and your brother were younger, for 1 week we would spend the week with our aunt. And at that time, our grandma was living, and of course you didn't get to meet her, but we would spend time with her as well.
So you are admitting that you were old, you met Grandma, and you're 27 years older than me? You're admitting that?
No, not. You're only as old as you feel. Only as old as you feel, Callie. So now, I recall of this festival they had in Elmwood called UFO Days. I remember having a sweatshirt or a t-shirt of it at one point. I don't ever remember going. But since we're doing paranormal and, well, UFOs, and that's one of your favorite subjects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I figured I would dive into that UFO sightings information and see what I dug up.
Well, if it's considering UFOs, let's look at Elmwood then.
And I dug up a lot. So I don't know how long this one's going to run, but we will try to condense it as much as possible. So let's talk about Elmwood. Yeah. So Elmwood is a village in the northeastern border in Pierce County. It's near Eau Claire. It's close to Minneapolis, Minnesota. I remember going to Mall of America, being over there, so it wasn't a long drive. There has been a post office there operating since 1885. The village is named for a grove of elm trees that grow in the town. The three towns, now there are three towns that do claim to be a UFO capital of Wisconsin, and of course Elmwood is one of them. But, Bellevue and Dundee, they wanted in on the action too. Yeah, so, and, I think we should cover those two cities at some point too.
If they think they're a capital,
so
we gotta see what that's about.
Yeah, so we should find out about that. The local interest comes from unexplainable things that have happened near Elmwood, basically in Pierce County, but a lot of it is Elmwood. The federal government, there was a federal government group that investigates UFO activity, and they have looked into some of these events. In the 1970s, the sightings became more frequent, and I don't know, this is kind of crazy, but I like this idea. A multi-million-dollar UFO landing strip was proposed to be built in Elmwood.
Okay, can you imagine how cool that would be? Can you just imagine, if aliens, were oh, they're finally accepting us, and they came, and they landed on them, we could be hanging out with aliens, right now.
That would be perfect for first contact, but, I guess we got Area 51.
Yeah.
I don't know, but...
that's close enough.
Yeah, so, and I think Wisconsin would be the perfect place. All the things I've done, Wisconsin has a lot of sightings for UFOs. Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Now, the festival that they do have is known as UFO Days. I've read mixed reviews, like it's more of a festival and it's gone away from its roots. I don't know what it is like now, but I think we should, go. That happens around the last weekend of July every summer. That would be a good thing to go and experience. Who knows? You might learn something.
Yeah, I actually just looked it up, and there's a lot of there's a parade, there's food, there's music, and it's like this whole thing to commemorate its roots and look at UFOs. Like, it's kind of cool. I kind of want to go to that.
Wonder how the people now feel about the UFOs of this younger generation.
My generation really, I think, is pretty into this stuff, into spirituality, into paranormal, and I think they'll really enjoy the UFOs. And Area 51, that area in 2020, that Area 51 raid, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
It didn't go as planned, but
no, it didn't really happen.
It did. They were there.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't happen.
Well, now before we start, I do want to put out there that there are many natural events that do happen. That does not mean some of the sightings we're talking about are alien. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There are different classifications of level of alien activity sightings and what they mean. I will not go into that. I might do a bonus content episode that will cover that if you want to know more. When looking into UFO reports, please, as we say these, have an open mind. It is important to remember there are real people behind these reports. A lot of times people do not disclose their name. With saying you saw a UFO and your name disclosed, sometimes there's a stigma behind it and people think you're crazy. That doesn't mean that. This is just unexplained. UFO is unidentified flying object. So, it does not necessarily mean aliens. Now, if we're talking aliens, there's close encounters. And there are different reports for that.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of intelligent life and this whole belief thing, do you think there's intelligent life, Nick? I mean, take a look at our family for a second.
Well, yeah. Some of your other brothers are interesting. Even your sisters. But yeah, I think there could be. There's evidence out there. Can't trust the government. They might be hiding something.
Well, I might have not experienced a UFO sighting myself, but I am open-minded. I mean, my dad, he's really big into watching UFOs and what outer extraterrestrial beings are doing, and so that just kind of, I guess, rubbed off on me. Paranormal, it's like.
Yeah. Now, please don't think we're like that one guy with the crazy hair.
Yeah, I mean.
Ancient aliens. Yeah, we're not going into that. We're just talking about what people have reported to have seen. We were not there, so we can only speculate.
I mean, sometimes I think my brother's from another planet. I mean, our brother.
Oh, yeah.
And, when I was born, my dad said that I kind of looked like an alien.
Oh, yeah.
He still brings it up.
Well, I think all babies look like potatoes, but that's just me. So, now, to find all this information, I actually looked up the city of Elmwood and got their history, but for the UFO reports, I went to www.ufowisconsin.com, and this covers the whole state. It's a very good resource, and we will be using this website in the future for other cities. I also got a book Wisconsin Progress Report. UFO Wisconsin, a progress report, and it does cover the hot spots of Wisconsin. I actually got this as a used book through a library.
Ooh.
So, let's. I don't know, where should we start? How about the first one that I was able to locate, and this was in Pierce County, in which I said Elmwood is a part of Pierce County. So when we say Pierce County, this is part of Elmwood. Okay. Now, December 11th, 1957, around 4 p.m. in Ellsworth, Wisconsin. Now, I'll just read the details and then we can discuss it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, many cars stopped to observe a silent reddish glow with glowing disc which flew above the ground at about 80 kilometers per hour. A small windowless cabin was visible on the underside of the object.
Okay, so it's going 80 miles an hour, like
80
kilometers.
Yeah, kilometers.
Wait, and you said it's windowless. How could they see where they're flying?
Well, it says a windowless cabin on the underside of the object. So, now, the thing is, there could be a logical explanation for this. But this did stop many cars, and there were some apparently enough reports that this got
It doesn't sound
recorded.
like a plane. A windowless cabin.
Yeah, so I don't know what to think of that one.
Yeah.
But now this one comes from a Carol Foster, March 2nd, 1975. This one's titled UFO Follows Elmwood School Teacher's Car. Now, a craft appeared when Carol Foster and her 3 children on their drive home noticed that what they thought was a very bright star following them. Okay, I mean, a bright star. Yeah, when you're the passenger and you're looking out, there's always a light that kind of follows, and like the star just, you're not moving that far away from the star.
Yeah.
So as she was continuing her drive, she started to contemplate stopping at a nearby home, kind of just for validation of what she was seeing. But then, so she didn't stop. She just thought she was crazy. But the stars started dipping lower. Now this prompted her to stop. And she did stop. Well, no, actually, she didn't stop at this point. She was considering stopping at the Briar Farm, but she was still like, "What the heck?" Little leery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wait, so she just thought she was going crazy? I mean, with her kids in the back, that's just so sad.
Yeah. So now, as she neared the Weber farm, the star drifted over the treetops and stopped at the farm. Roger Weber, Carl Weber's son, was at the farm with his 2 children. They all observed the light. It frightened the children. The craft was about the size of a car, but it was round. So Carol actually left, and the I guess object continued following her, and it did some weird flying stuff, so she backed back into the Weber residence, honking her horn. And this brought Roger and the children out, right? And when she blew the horn, the craft rose, but it stayed in sight.
Yeah, so it's just kind of like
Yeah.
scared almost.
Right. So Roger drove in front of them to make sure they made it home safely. Of course, he brought his children with him.
I wouldn't want to leave them
Yeah.
back there after that. Yeah.
Whatever it was, Carol had said before that experience she was an unbeliever in UFOs. But not anymore.
Yeah, I think I would believe it too. Like, if you're like that close to seeing something, I mean. But yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm like still on the fence with UFOs. Like, I would like more proof, like more solid evidence.
Right. Now, the two cases in this episode I really want to get to is really the core of the story of Elmwood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There was this guy, Officer George Wheeler. And some of this comes from the UFO Wisconsin website.
Mm-hmm.
Some of this comes from the book I have. And there's a book called Out There by Howard Bloom. There's some things. I used all three to kind of piece it together.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the details of the incident from Officer George Wheeler from April 1975. Now, this is his first encounter. Okay? Yeah, I said first encounter. So
he's had multiple.
Yes.
So this guy is for sure seeing these. He's not like crazy. I mean, he's an officer.
Yeah. So I don't, yeah. So I'll go into some of his credentials, and you can judge for yourself if he's a trustworthy witness. Earlier in the night, George Wheeler saw a huge ball of flame coming over a hill in the northeast. He thought it was a 747 about to crash, but it was too quiet. It was too quiet. And that was George's first clue that this was not what he thought it was. One thing for sure, it was flying too low in the night sky. The pilot appeared to be doing his best to steer away from the town. Now, George, he was a World War II combat pilot.
Oh.
He actually was an officer in New York at one point, I think. I read. So, George was worried that this was not going to be good. And he had a perfect view from his car. And as the object kept getting lower and lower, and he saw the object moving out of town, he tried to keep pace. He wanted to be near the event when it went down. Now, this was in case, people needed help when it came down, which, from what he was seeing, he was sure they would need help.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's like what you said, it was like on fire or whatever.
Yeah, it was like a fire.
So, I mean, that's really nice of him to do that. I mean, I would have went the other way.
Yeah. So now George drove at a high speed across County PP, trying to catch up to it. Now, when the plane was nearly overhead, the plane was nearly overhead, coming in very low, lighting up the horizon. This is when he moved to the ditch, and the object moved directly above him. So he was driving, and he thought he was near the spot, so he moved to the ditch, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, and the object moved directly above him.
Oh, wait, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, and it illuminated his car with the lights and flames. The odd part is that it was not a plane, because it was absolutely silent. There was no sound of engines or grinding of landing gear, and a 747 would have landing gear. It would be loud To top it off, the plane was not near crashing, but on a steady course. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know any craft that would have worked that way in 1975.
So this so-called plane, like this, what, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon?
UFO, UAP,
Yeah.
whatever at that point I think it was UFO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it looked like a plane, kind of. But it wasn't a plane. It didn't sound like a plane.
Well, there is a description further in the report on exactly what it looked like. But yeah, it was right above them, and it was soundless. All the planes I know are loud.
And it was, it had flames. I mean,
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now George was shaken, and dare I say shaky, after he was sure it was not a plane. The object then flew toward the south side flats outside of town. Now George had his eyes glued to the orange light that was bold as an explosion.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty bold. Now, according to the report, he followed the orange glow. We're not sure that I would have done that.
Yeah, I don't think so. I would have either. I think I would have went the other way and booked it.
Now, when he caught up to the object, it was hovering.
Hmm.
This was around 11 p.m. But the sky was as bright as noon.
Oh, I would not like that.
So, now, George got out of his car and took in the moment, despite being scared and probably trembling. Why would you get out of your car?
Yeah, why?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
This is like that horror movie logic where the girl, she like hears a noise and she like goes to check on it instead of staying in her room and like calling the cops. Like.
So if my choices were stay in the car or get out of the car, nope, I'm not getting out of that car.
I'm not even following it.
No. So it seems like a once in a lifetime thing, but that would be so scary. George probably couldn't look at it, a shooting star the same.
I mean, yeah, that is.
So now the object, he described it as a craft of some kind. It was shaped like two cereal bowls. I don't know how he got cereal, but
Two cereal
bowls. So two circles, put end to end, and hovering about 1,500 feet in the air from the ground.
Oh my god.
Now this was no small craft. It was at least the size of a football field.
Wait, okay, so he's the only person who sees this. It's the size of a football field. It's the sky is as bright as noon.
Do you know any planes that are just two circles the size of a football field?
I mean, how could if a football like two circles fly? I mean, that's like.
Yeah.
I mean the, like aerodynamics of it. I mean, where you could put like the. And it said it didn't have any noise, so where would the jet...
Yep.
I mean, it's 1975. Like,
And that is the oddest part. There was no noise. And that's probably why it almost went unseen.
I mean, but this is the only reported site of this. There could have been more sites, and people, like you said, are probably just don't want to get criticized.
So George watched it for a while. I don't know what he was thinking watching it. I would be getting the heck out of there.
I mean, as I said before, I'd be out there so fast. Lightning McQueen.
I mean, yeah. Silhouetted against the sky was It was motionless and quiet. Then suddenly the craft took off at a fast speed. Now, it would be deceiving just to say that it was more instantaneous, I guess. To add to it, the craft was doing what appeared to be nothing less than acrobatics in the sky. To George, it seemed to be putting on an air show for a sole audience of George. It was gone in an instant.
So, was it like trying to communicate with George? Was it trying to check in on like what our world is like, or what's going on here?
No, there was on April 8th edition, there was a story in the Minneapolis Pioneer Press. And he is a 30-year police veteran at the time, and he estimated the speed was as fast as 15,000 to 18,000 miles per hour. I don't know how you can estimate that, but that's George's words.
I mean, have you ever even seen something go that fast? But it was at 1,500 feet, I think. So that's.
And to top it off, Stanley Christensen, the sheriff, received numerous calls about the UFO from people in Elmwood, Ellsworth, and Maiden Rock. A Nancy Thesis, who lived 2 miles south of Ellsworth, called the sheriff at 12:55 to report it. She also said there were 2 other crafts, and and this is just a little small town of in Wisconsin. So what is special?
Wait, so you're saying there's 2 crafts? Is that the same aircraft? You think? Where it's
I don't.
2, and then but how did there get 4?
This was another witness that reported something too, and she said there, so there was possibly 4, yeah.
And so 4 of the same ones George saw. That is scary.
Yeah, so that, I don't know, that's just crazy. So now, this wasn't the only time George Wheeler saw a UFO.
They must really like him.
Yeah, they must. So this one happens almost a year to the day.
Ooh.
April 22nd, 1976. If once wasn't enough, George Wheeler saw a UFO again, almost a year to the day to the first sighting. The big difference this time was there was noise that he heard moments before.
Oh.
It started when George was out on patrol that evening. Again, about a year ago, he saw the orange light near the Tuttle Hill Quarry. He radioed that it looked like a fire and the quarry was going on, and he was going to investigate. He took Road P, and was high enough up to have a clear view. It was over a flat hilltop alfalfa field. Over the radio, George said, "My God, it's one of those UFOs again." This time he described the craft as while he was calm and under control. So he saw one before.
So he's used this is a normal thing to him now. I don't think I could ever get used to that. That is terrifying.
Oh, yeah. So he described it over the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. To Sheriff Helmer's wife, who was working as a dispatcher that night. So small town, makes sense, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So she was covering probably for someone. He said it was bigger than a 2-story house and that it was silver. He estimated it was 250 feet across. Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And that a bright orange beam glowed from the roof. The light was so bright he could not look straight at it.
Okay, so that one's 250 feet. That's still big.
Yeah.
But, the other one was the size of a football field.
So then the radio... Oh, okay. Yeah. As he was describing the craft, it started rising, and there was a big whooshing noise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before he could realize what was happening, a blue ray, not the disc, okay, not the disc, and this blue ray shot out, hitting his car.
Okay, so this is a completely different aircraft. This one can fight. This one's bigger. A football field, that's 160 feet. This one's, 250? That's almost 100 feet bigger. So it has room for these weapons, and the whooshing noise has got to be, it's able to have, an engine now or something? Something to make noise. It's totally different.
So now the radio went completely dead. The car was a complete wreck. Okay, and Officer Wheeler, he was knocked unconscious. Lucky for Officer Wheeler, David Moot, a dairy farmer, was driving the babysitter home when he noticed the squad car. Upon investigating, Moots discovered Officer Wheeler. When he asked him if he was okay, Officer Wheeler didn't respond.
Well, I don't think he would if he's unconscious.
Right. So Moots noticed Wheeler didn't have any strength and was white as milk.
You know, it's kind of fitting because Moot's a farmer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he could have been yellow like cheese.
Yeah.
You know, Wheeler told him he was hit, and Moots thought by a car, right? That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
By a car.
Oh, so he wasn't out that long if he was able to...
Right. So, but no, Wheeler, no, he goes by one of them UFOs.
So he's actually telling people, like, openly about this. He's not, like, worried about controversy.
I mean, no.
I really want to know what people at the time thought about this.
Gerald Helmer, you know, the dispatcher, she couldn't contact Wheeler. So she found out, so she had to find out what was going on.
Oh,
so
yeah.
she called Paul Fredrickson, a nursing home administrator, and he lived near where Wheeler was. Fredrickson stated he saw a flaming orange object in the sky that resembled a bright half moon, and went to get his wife, and by the time, you know, and this was seconds, by the time they got back to the window with his wife, the craft was gone.
Okay, so that does, like, fit together because it said it was orange, like a flaming orange, and the reason that Officer Wheeler went to the quarry was because it looked like it was on fire. Mm-hmm. So this is all lining up. Now
this one, George Wheeler, his health kind of deteriorated after this event. And
do you think it's because he got hit?
Maybe, and within 6 months he actually did pass away. So...
Now that's weird. That's kind of strange.
So, you know, and what we have on record was the best memory he had, because over time he started losing the memory of it.
Now, in 6 months, that's kind of weird.
So, you know, take it for what it is. That's the story of it. And, you know, so George Wheeler is basically a legend in Elmwood. Some people may call him a crackpot. Some believe him, you know, but he, you know,
I think
he's a big name.
I think these other reports with people that were totally different places, like no connection really, you know, that we know of, how would they contact each other? I mean, they're calling the report, and it's like this flaming thing every time. It's like this bright orange, and it's just so weird, and it's in Elmwood of all places, and like, that is just so weird.
Yes. So, you know, I think we should cut it off right here, and we will continue the next one with some more UFO tales of Elmwood.
Yes.
I think I knew these would take up a little time. I mean, we have some shorter ones that we can get into the future episode coming up.
Mm-hmm. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed it. Please join us next time for as we continue this topic.
And remember to join me for the bonus content episode.